It finally happened, brother. After months of rumors, leaked photos, and people swearing it would never make it past the import pipeline, a $1,500 motorcycle has officially touched U.S. soil. A small dealership cracked open a crate expecting something completely different, and instead found a brand new machine with a price tag that looks like it came straight out of the late 90s. Tonight, we're breaking down exactly how this bike slipped in, what the dealer confirmed, and why this could shake the entire budget market. Watch till the end, because the real story here isn't the bike. It's how this price could force a shift that affects every rider's wallet. The quiet arrival. When the first crate rolled off the delivery truck and onto the loading bay of a small independent dealership in rural Pennsylvania, nobody expected history inside it. The staff assumed it was another mid-priced import, maybe a long-delayed parts shipment. But when the crowbar cracked the lid and the wrapping peeled back, the room went silent. There it was, the Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 motorcycle, a machine U.S. distributors had quietly said might not arrive for years, now sitting in front of stunned eyes like it had slipped in under the cover of darkness. The tag, hanging from the handlebar, didn't help the shock. It didn't say $5,000. It didn't say $4,000. It didn't even say $3,000. It said $1,500. A price so low it felt like a misprint, a number that didn't belong in modern showrooms. A figure that made everyone in that room question whether they were seeing something legal, something approved, something that could actually be sold in a country where motorcycles have steadily climbed into unreachable territory. There was no press release, no media buildup, no teaser campaign, no parade of influencers pretending to discover it. It simply arrived, quietly, unannounced, and absolutely real. You could feel the mood shift. The mechanics walked around it with slow steps, as if approaching an animal no one had seen before. The sales manager didn't even speak for nearly a minute. He just stared at the price, then at the engine, then back at the price again. This wasn't just another import. This was a direct challenge to the entire American pricing structure, delivered like a letter slipped under the door. But if the discovery felt shocking, the bigger jolt came when analysts tried to explain how a machine like this could even exist at that price. The price nobody predicted. When news of the Guerrilla 450 motorcycle's $1,500 price leaked beyond the first shop, it didn't spread like gossip. It spread like an electrical surge. Analysts, economists, and distributors all scrambled to understand the math behind a number that broke every trend line they had studied for a decade. Inside corporate offices, whiteboards filled up fast. Shipping cost estimates, material projections, labor breakdowns, import scenarios. But no matter how many formulas they ran, they kept hitting the same wall. The price didn't fit any known model in the current U.S. motorcycle economy. American analysts had spent years predicting rising costs, not falling ones. They expected premium bikes to climb, mid-tier bikes to stagnate, and entry-level bikes to hover safely above the affordable nostalgia threshold. They did not expect a near 500cc class motorcycle to come in priced like a used mower. Every spreadsheet pointed to the same uncomfortable conclusion. Someone overseas had solved a manufacturing equation the US market wasn't ready for. The Guerrilla 450 motorcycle represented a kind of economic judo, using efficiency, volume, and global positioning to deliver a blow no competitor saw coming. The price didn't defy gravity. It simply followed rules American companies had forgotten how to use. And that terrified analysts more than the number itself, because once a price like $1,500 enters the market, even quietly, even cautiously, it becomes a reference point that reshapes everything around it. Suddenly, the middle of the market has to justify itself. Suddenly, the entry level has to prove it isn't bloated. Suddenly, the luxury tier has to demonstrate it offers more than inflated cost. The Guerrilla 450 motorcycle didn't just undercut the chart, it rewrote the chart. And while analysts scrambled around their spreadsheets, riders and wrenchers were preparing to get their hands on the machine that had everyone guessing. If you want the straight truth about shifts like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you've seen prices changing in your own area, share your experience. Rider Insight helps everyone understand what's really happening out there. Built for real hands. The first teardown happened the same afternoon the Gorilla 450 motorcycle arrived, and the shop crew wasted no time rolling it onto the workbench. Under the fluorescent lights, the machine revealed itself as a throwback to an era when a rider could learn every inch of a bike without an engineering degree. The frame lines carried the kind of straightforward geometry older riders remember from the machines they grew up with, and every weld looked honest, intentional, and free from the decorative touches that complicate basic service. The air-cooled layout kept things open and familiar, giving mechanics room to work without reaching through plastic panels or layers of unnecessary hardware. The intake, the routing, the cable runs, and the hardware choices all pointed toward a design philosophy built around hands-on maintenance. Nothing felt hidden for the sake of style, and nothing forced the mechanic to consult a computer before reaching for a hand tool. It was the kind of layout that made veteran riders nod without saying a word. Chain access was clean, valve inspection points were visible, and the overall fit suggested a machine meant to be serviced in real garages by people who still trust a torque wrench more than a diagnostic screen. It felt like a reminder of how simple good engineering can be when the builder respects the rider's skill. But even with its old-school practicality, getting this machine into the country was a battle all its own. Everything I wear, carry, and trust, the real gear and accessories that keep every ride honest, is linked below the description. The long road through red tape. Long before the Gorilla 450 motorcycle ever reached American roads, it had already survived a maze of obstacles that stretched far beyond manufacturing. The import process alone turned into a slow march through layers of review, starting with compliance checks that examined everything from lighting placement to exhaust routing. Testing lines moved at a pace that frustrated even patient observers, and each stage required new documentation before the machine could advance to the next table. What looked like a simple, traditional motorcycle suddenly required pages of formal testing protocols that had been updated repeatedly over the past decade. Once the basic technical evaluations were cleared, the machine entered the broader approval cycle where federal and state regulations intersected, often creating bottlenecks no one could predict. Some regions demanded secondary verifications, while others required additional conformity reports that traced every component back to its source. Nothing about the process moved quickly, and every delay pushed the arrival date further into the distance. Even after those steps were completed, shipping clearances introduced a separate round of inspections at the port, forcing the machine to wait again, while officials reviewed paperwork one more time. By the time all those requirements were satisfied, years had passed, and many riders assumed the model would never break through. Yet here it stands, finally on American soil, a reminder that persistence through bureaucracy can still deliver something meaningful. And now that it has arrived, the real consequences of its presence are about to unfold. Shops split down the middle. When the Royal Enfield Gorilla 450 motorcycle began appearing in distributor catalogs, small-town shop owners reacted with a kind of cautious curiosity. Some saw a chance to finally stock something riders could afford without sacrificing the feel of a real machine. Something that still looked like a motorcycle instead of a designer experiment. These shops, many of them run by families who have been wrenching for decades, recognized what a $1,500 offering could mean for customers who have been priced out of modern models for years. They talked about new foot traffic, fresh conversations, and a return to practical riding culture. But the reaction was not the same in every zip code. Larger urban retailers, especially those tied closely to premium brands, viewed the Gorilla 450 motorcycle as a quiet disruption. To them, it felt like a reminder that the middle of the market had been left unattended for too long. A few managers mentioned the fear of margin pressure and the possibility that some higher-end models might begin gathering dust if riders chose something simpler and more direct. The tension grew as whispers spread that this arrival might force uncomfortable adjustments in inventory planning. While none of these shops had yet seen the full impact, one thing became clear: the Gorilla 450 motorcycle had ignited a new conversation about value in places where the debate had been quiet for too long. But the shop view is only one side of the story. Because the real test came once riders took it to the road, riders who got there first. The first wave of early riders took the Gorilla 450 motorcycle out on weekend loops, rail trails, and winding back roads to see if the rumors matched reality. Without cameras, sponsorships, or staged photo shoots, these riders shared impressions the old-fashioned way. Face-to-face, helmet in hand, boots still dusty from the ride. What they described felt grounded and straightforward. Bike settled in naturally during longer runs, offering a steady posture that riders appreciated when the miles stretched on. The seating triangle felt intuitive, and the bars landed where the hands expected them to be. Those who took it through mixed terrain noted that the machine carried itself with a sense of calm rather than urgency. Hill climbs were steady, low-speed maneuvering was predictable, and the suspension carried weight without complaint. Riders talked about how the bike delivered a sense of familiarity right away, the kind of connection that normally takes a few rides to build. More than one rider mentioned that it reminded them of the dependable machines they rode decades ago, the ones that rewarded relaxed confidence. No one described fireworks or drama. Instead, they talked about steadiness, comfort, and a certain honesty in the way it moved. These early impressions formed the first layer of credibility, built not from brochures, but from real miles under real boots. Still, none of this explained how a machine like this could be produced and delivered at such a surprising figure, the supply chain behind the surprise. Behind the scenes, the Gorilla 450 motorcycle owed its arrival to a supply chain that operated with near-surgical coordination. The manufacturing began overseas, in facilities that specialized in high-volume production without excessive automation, allowing skilled hands to guide key stages. Metalwork, frame preparation, and basic assembly followed established routines honed over years, reducing waste and lowering overhead. Vendors supplying components, such as wheels, seats, and controls, were located within short distances of the main assembly line, cutting down on transit time and packaging materials. Once assembled, the machines moved through consolidation hubs where batches were sorted for shipping. Instead of sending smaller shipments at higher cost, the manufacturer relied on consolidated freight runs that placed hundreds of units into containers, moving on predetermined routes. These containers traveled through major shipping lanes that had long established timetables, eliminating the unpredictability that often plagues new imports. At the docks, the machines were processed in bulk, supported by agreements that kept handling fees predictable. From there, regional distribution centers used ground transport rather than piecemeal freight, allowing multiple shops to receive product from a single coordinated route. Each step of the journey had been shaped by volume, planning, and familiarity with global trade patterns that rewarded consistency. Nothing about this structure was glamorous, but every link in the chain served a purpose, and those quiet efficiencies made the $1,500 figure possible. And once all those logistics aligned, the last question became how the machine actually behaved under real-world demands, how it rides where it counts. When riders took the Gorilla 450 motorcycle onto rural roads and uneven hillsides, the machine revealed the steady character that had slowly built its reputation overseas. The geometry balanced stability with enough agility to handle tight bends without feeling twitchy. On long stretches of open road, the chassis held its line with an ease that encouraged riders to settle into the rhythm rather than fight the machine. The suspension absorbed imperfections without growing harsh, and the seat shape offered support during stretches that lasted well beyond a casual ride. On light trails, the bike kept its footing. Gravel, roots, and ruts did not unsettle it, and riders appreciated how predictable the front end remained when the ground shifted beneath them. One noticeable strength was how it carried real-world weight. Whether strapping on a small tool roll, a lunch pack, or a short-haul load, the machine did not sag or wobble. The frame felt ready for everyday demands, the kind faced by riders who still view motorcycles as practical companions rather than occasional toys. The machine did not try to overperform or show off. Instead, it delivered confidence by responding the same way every time. Whether easing through a town street or climbing a slow gravel incline, That reliability in motion helped define its identity far more than any catalog description ever could. The verdict was simple. The bike earned trust mile by mile, and with trust beginning to form, the larger industry braced for what would come next. Competitors hit the panic button. When the sales figures for the Royal Enfield Guerrilla 450 motorcycle finally reached the desks of established manufacturers, the reaction inside their boardrooms shifted from mild concern to something closer to controlled alarm. Executives who had previously dismissed the model as an outlier now studied detailed charts with a seriousness that had been absent only a few weeks earlier. The reality became impossible to ignore. A lightweight, straightforward machine with an accessible entry price had managed to cut directly into segments once considered protected territory. Competitors found themselves questioning long-standing assumptions about what modern riders truly wanted. In private meetings, strategy teams debated whether they had underestimated the appeal of simplicity. PowerPoint slides showed revised projections and newly proposed model updates that emphasized a return to function over flair. Some companies drafted early plans for mid-displacement alternatives that could compete with the Guerrilla 450 motorcycle. But even the earliest concepts revealed an uncomfortable truth. Matching its combination of cost discipline and mechanical focus would require significant changes to supply chains that had grown overly complex. As discussions deepened, executives acknowledged that the shift triggered by this model would not be solved with minor adjustments. Several brands quietly paused upcoming releases to reconsider their pricing ladders and long-term product direction. What began as a small disruption was becoming a full industry recalibration. While companies recalculated their strategies, riders across the country were experiencing a different kind of shift altogether. Simplicity makes a comeback. Across senior riding clubs and touring groups, a quiet sense of pride emerged as the Guerrilla 450 motorcycle circulated through weekend meetups. Many longtime riders found themselves drawn to its straightforward approach, a style that felt reminiscent of machines they had grown up maintaining with their own hands. The renewed appreciation for practicality unfolded in conversations about earlier decades when motorcycles were built around honest engineering rather than layers of technology. This reawakening did not come from nostalgia alone. It was rooted in the familiar experience of riding something that behaved predictably on long roads and quiet back routes. Groups that had spent years watching the industry chase complexity embraced the arrival of a machine that prioritized fundamentals. Riders spoke about the comfort of a bike that did not overwhelm them with unnecessary menus or complicated interfaces. The Guerrilla 450 motorcycle represented a return to what had once made riding widespread: accessibility, serviceability, and a direct connection between rider and machine. It stood in contrast to the increasingly elaborate models that had dominated showroom floors for so long. Cultural momentum was one thing, but the real friction began when retailers realized they were entering a new competition of their own. If you want to stay ahead of what the industry is doing next, subscribe to the channel. The landscape is changing fast, and the more you know, the better prepared you are when the next surprise hits the market: the new budget battlefield. As the Guerrilla 450 motorcycle attracted increasing attention, retailers found themselves in a sharply shifting landscape. Large chains recognized that the arrival of a model with such a compelling price point meant the budget segment could no longer be treated as an afterthought. They responded by rearranging floor plans to place mid-range and entry-level machines at the front of their showrooms, hoping to recapture buyers who had drifted away. Discount boards appeared more frequently, and bundle offers began to surface with riding gear, service packages, and extended financing windows designed to sweeten the deal. Independent shops reacted differently. Many of them adopted a more personalized strategy, emphasizing one-on-one service and highlighting their long-standing ties to community riders. They showcased the Guerrilla 450 motorcycle as a practical choice for anyone returning to riding after years away. Some stores even developed workshop sessions that focused on hands-on maintenance, presenting themselves as partners in the ownership experience rather than simple points of purchase. Each retailer understood that winning the budget buyer now required creative thinking instead of relying solely on brand loyalty. And while the battlefield shifted inside retail spaces, the financial world quietly moved to evaluate what this disruption meant for the future of the motorcycle market. Investors start shifting their money. In investor briefing rooms, the introduction of the Gorilla 450 motorcycle prompted a more cautious and analytical response. Financial analysts pored over early sales data, assessing how a model priced far below the industry's typical thresholds could achieve measurable traction so quickly. The numbers challenged long-held beliefs about consumer behavior, especially in a market that had leaned heavily on premium segments for so many years. Investors watched with interest as return on equity projections shifted for companies positioned either to benefit from or compete against this newly energized category. Quiet adjustments began appearing in portfolio strategies. Funds that once prioritized established premium manufacturers diversified toward brands known for efficient production and accessible pricing. Private analysts conducted scenario modeling to test how similar models might influence global sales patterns if the trend continued. Some investors speculated that this was the beginning of a broader correction in the motorcycle market, driven partly by consumer fatigue with rising prices, and partly by renewed confidence in straightforward machines. With financial pressure rising and cultural momentum building, the stage was set for the final chapter of this unfolding story. The world finally forces America to move. Long before the Royal Enfield Gorilla 450 motorcycle arrived in the United States, the global market had already been shifting in ways that made its entry nearly inevitable. Across Asia, riders had spent years embracing machines that offered dependable performance, without the ballooning costs associated with premium branding. Markets in India, Thailand, and Vietnam routinely showcased models priced at levels that would have startled many American buyers. Europe, with its diverse riding cultures, also maintained steady demand for practical motorcycles that emphasized efficiency over sheer size. Latin America presented another layer of contrast. There, manufacturers built entire strategies around affordability, ensuring that motorcycles remained accessible to households that relied on them for daily transportation. This worldwide pattern formed a pressure system that eventually reached American shores. As international sales demonstrated strong growth for efficient, mid-displacement machines, the question became not whether the United States would adapt, but when. The arrival of the Gorilla 450 motorcycle simply crystallized what global trends had been hinting at for years. And while global forces pushed the market forward, the political world began grappling with its own reaction. Washington starts paying attention. As interest in the Royal Enfield Gorilla 450 motorcycle surged, policymakers on Capitol Hill found themselves discussing issues that had not been at the forefront of motorcycle regulation in years. Trade specialists examined long-standing tariff structures, questioning whether the existing import duties still reflected the realities of modern commerce. Voices within regulatory committees argued that an outdated framework might be limiting consumer access to reasonably priced machines, pushing the conversation into areas policymakers had rarely revisited. Economists attached to think tanks produced reports suggesting that current import rules could inadvertently discourage competition, limiting the range of motorcycles available to American buyers. This prompted discussions around potential tariff adjustments, with some arguing for streamlined duty rates that could lower entry barriers for models similar to the 450. Others cautioned that sudden changes might create new tensions with domestic manufacturers or disrupt established trade agreements. And while political debates simmered, the design rooms of major brands began filling with a different kind of energy altogether. Brands sketch their next move. Inside the quiet spaces where future motorcycles take shape, designers and engineers worked with a renewed sense of purpose. The landscape created by the Gorilla 450 motorcycle encouraged brands to re-evaluate the direction of their upcoming lineups. Studios that once focused heavily on large displacement machines and advanced electronics shifted attention toward blueprints that embraced leaner designs. Early sketches featured simplified frames, reduced weight, and functional styling that echoed the values gaining traction among writers. Engineering departments began experimenting with new combinations of mid-range displacement and balanced ergonomics. Prototype mock-ups focused on delivering steady, predictable handling rather than chasing extreme horsepower figures. Teams studied global trends and noted the rising appeal of motorcycles that were enjoyable at everyday speeds rather than those demanding expansive highways to appreciate fully. This shift translated into early concepts that placed more emphasis on durability, ease of service, and long-term ownership satisfaction. All these developments pointed to one central question: how would these changes reshape the rider's experience over the coming years? What it means for riders ahead. As the effects of this market shift unfolded, riders across the country began considering what the next 5 years might look like for their own decisions. The arrival of a motorcycle built around practical engineering encouraged many to rethink their expectations. Instead of prioritizing only brand prestige or high performance, riders looked more closely at long-term reliability, serviceability, and everyday comfort. The presence of a straightforward model reminded them that a satisfying riding experience could be grounded in simple, well-executed fundamentals. This change also influenced how riders evaluated future purchases. With more brands likely to offer approachable mid-displacement machines, buyers could expect a wider selection of models that balanced capability with ease of maintenance. Riders who valued hands-on involvement anticipated a return to motorcycles that allowed them to perform basic upkeep without relying on specialized equipment. This shift did not diminish the appeal of advanced machines, but it broadened the spectrum of what riders considered worth owning. And with that understanding, the story moves beyond a single model and toward a new era defined by renewed purpose and clarity. So there it is, the $1,500 wildcard the industry didn't want you to see, finally out in the open. Whether this becomes the first domino or just a loud wake-up call, it's already forcing questions the big brands hoped you wouldn't ask. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your honest take? Is this the start of the price reset riders have been begging for, or just a temporary shock? Drop it in the comments. The discussion is half the fun. If you value truth over hype, hit like, subscribe, and stick with the channel. The next story is already unfolding, and you won't want to miss it.